Time to bring in our panel this afternoon, our panel of political strategists. Grahame Morris here with me in Canberra and Bruce Hawker in the Sky News Centre. Very good afternoon to both of you. Let's talk about the Senate voting reforms that the Prime Minister's unveiled today. Grahame, to you first. What impact will it have? What will these changes actually mean in terms of the Senate that's elected?
Well, David, I think it means that the days of the accidental senators will be over and that people will have control again over their own vote. You know, if you need 14% of the vote to get elected in the Senate and you get 0.5% and you come 13th in the rankings of parties, but you get elected, there's something odd about that. And all this does is to give to voters themselves greater power so they know where on earth their votes are going to end up, and the days of the accidental senators will be gone.
So it's a good thing.
Well, I think it is. You know, there will be really marginal politicians who will say this is dreadful. But for the voters, they ought to know where their votes are ending up and not wake up, you know, on a Sunday morning and say, hang on, that's not how I voted.
Well, Bruce, what do you think? Because we have seen some division within Labor over whether this is a good idea or not. Someone who's followed and been involved in many, many election campaigns, what do you make of these changes?
Look, I think they're good, David, for the same reasons that Grahame's stated. It's wrong that you have these perverse outcomes where people are electing people to the Senate in incredibly important and powerful positions, and they've got absolutely no idea who they are or what they stand for. Under these proposals, as I understand them, there'll be an obligation on people to actually vote for the candidates that they want rather than just doing above-the-line voting all the time. They'll have to actually indicate beyond, I think, the first whatever number of seats that the members that they're electing, whether their preferences are going to flow on to other candidates or not.
Although you can still just vote one above the line, and
yes.
If you vote for a micro or minor candidate, that's just exhausted after that, so you don't flow preferences onto anyone else.
Yeah, and I think that's a good move, frankly. It's this optional preferential sort of system they've got in place now, or they're going to have in place. I hope that Labor adopts it because I don't think it's healthy for this sort of a system to apply in the Senate. I don't think it leaves the Senate in good odour as far as the electorate's concerned, and it frankly comes up with some very bizarre outcomes which don't suit the democratic processes at all.
Yeah, and Grahame, presumably if there's little chance for all these micro parties to actually get a seat, not as many are going to run, not as many are going to clog up the ballot paper.
Well, I think that's true because some of the ballot papers are absolutely blinking ridiculous. You know, a toilet roll looks small by comparison. Yeah, look, it makes it slightly simpler for the voters, but it means that the voters know what they're doing and they get what they vote for, not accidents.
Well, agreement on that. Let's get your thoughts on the Newspoll. Bruce, to you first on this. 50-50 according to Newspoll after preferences between Labor and the Coalition. Now, it's only a 1-point gain for Labor on their primary vote, but a 3-point fall on the primary vote there you can see for the Coalition. What do you think? Is this about right? And does that cause for celebration for Labor?
Well, I think it's cause for encouragement for Labor, and it's the second poll in recent days which has them quite close. So the Ipsos one had, I think, the government on 52 and Labor on 48. It feels maybe 50-50 is a little bit too good for Labor at the moment, but given where Turnbull's been with his party, but it also points to the fact that if you really allow inertia to overtake your prime ministership, you can start losing support pretty quickly, and that seems to be what's happened here. He's been caught between what he says he wants to do and what the party's allowing him to do, and now people in the street are starting to say, well, who will be elected as prime minister? I don't think it's crisis time for him, but it's a pretty serious message I think he's receiving.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Grahame?
I think most of the Coalition people would like to blow up February. It's been terrible. The next election is all about Sydney and surrounds with the marginal seats and Queensland. And last week in Queensland I picked it up that people were just really confused. Is that let's have tax cuts. Oh no, we're not going to have tax reform anymore. Oh, what's that leave? Oh, that leaves negative gearing. Oh, well, that buggers the aspirational sort of people who want to earn a buck. Let's have capital gains tax. Well, the same thing. Let's touch super. Well, that wrecks the Liberal Party base and the aspirational people again. And you wonder why the polls dive. There was, I'm almost paid to know what the message is for the coalition. And, up until today, for the last couple of weeks, I'm stuffed if I know what it was.
This is a pretty devastating critique from you, Grahame Morris.
It left a void, and when you get a void, that hurts governments, because people say, well, look, I'll go with you, providing you know what you're doing. And remember, we'll look back, and I hope this is not the case, but we'll look back. Remember, Kevin Rudd had that stupid environment policy. Now, I thought it was stupid, but the electorate thought he knew what he was doing, and he walked away without an explanation, and the electorate went crash. Now, the way the tax change of heart was expressed and was dropped on people was a bit the same.
So you think dropping the GST option, let's be frank, was akin to that Kevin Rudd ETS moment?
Well, it's getting close, because the whole tax thing worked as a package. You could tweak super, you could tweak capital gains, you could tweak all sorts of things, providing the GST was there, which gave you a chance for big compensation and big tax cuts. Take the GST out, and you're left with, let's go and do something else.
There's not much left.
We don't know what anything else
out
is.
capital gains tax now, and where does that leave the election talk?
Well, look,
only one guy really knows, and that's
look,
the PM. What would you suggest?
Today's announcement on the Senate reform, I reckon the PM just wants options on the table, and one of them is Senate reform, so that you can have a double dissolution if you wanted to. But the Electoral Commission needs 3 months to get everything organised. So that's why it's today, and the PM still has the option. I reckon double dissolution odds have gone up from, say, 5% to 25%. But the main game to me is still September, October, and particularly if you've got your nose in front, it means the opposition in August has to get over the top of the Rio Olympic headlines.
Yeah.
In September, has got to get over all the footballers' groins and their crook back and who's going to play in the grand final. And that is hard for oppositions. Yeah. But I think we're up from 5% chance of a double dissolution to, say, 25%.
Bruce, what do you reckon? Perhaps not so much what the chances are, but what would be your advice to Malcolm Turnbull at the moment on whether he should go early or not?
Oh, well, as a Labor man, I'd say go now, because the polls are looking much better for Labor. But look, I don't think he will go early now unless things turn around quite dramatically for him. I think the message that the electorate's saying and giving to him is, we want to hear a lot more from you. We want to see what you're going to do. And we're really going to reserve a bit of judgment on you that we thought we wouldn't have to, because so far you've really been a bit of a disappointment. That's really, I think, in a nutshell, what we're hearing. It was collective relief when Abbott went. As soon as he was gone into the distance, people expected Turnbull was going to do something. He's done very little, and I think he's actually going to have to knuckle down now and demonstrate that he's able to walk the walk and talk the talk. He's sort of doing one but not the other at the moment. I don't think that's good enough, and I don't think the electorate does. And he's really been left, I think, short by Labor when it's come out with its own negative gearing policy, which, according to that poll today, is being quite well received by all parties, particularly Labor and the Greens, but also people on the Liberal Party, Liberal Party supporters. So I think that's an interesting time that we're in for over the next few weeks and months. I'd be surprised if he went for a double dissolution. I think that creates all sorts of problems for the next term and for a proliferation of smaller parties that we were just talking about before. Yeah. So I think he'll go longer rather than shorter.
An interesting time indeed that we are at the moment. Bruce Hawker, Grahame Morris, thank you both very much. We'll catch up again next